yeah, you got to own it. You got to be proud of it. I'm proud of our city. You know, they've been through a lot, you know, for a long time. And so it's really cool to the city of Troy to have the optimism. But I appreciate you rocking with us from day one.
Hey, man, you know what it is. But speaking of fit, though, both in terms of free agency and the draft, does Brad Holmes have a type?
Yeah, I do. You know, we look for, you know, gritty, smart, passionate, explosive, instinctive football players. And, you know, I think we've proven that that's what we're built on. You know, we want to play fast, we want to play physical. And I think we've done that. But I think what showed, especially in the last half of this past season, is that we can play smart too. And so, and when you have a really, really young team, you know, you have to go through those lumps. And those guys have to learn how to win. But, you know, I really like the young guys on defense. They played really well. We drafted 6 defensive players last year, and, you know, 5 of those 6 ended up being very, very key contributors to us. So, you know, when you look at the totality of the season, the growth is cool to see.
But, of course, the spotlight's on the quarterback spot. And always. I remember talking to you last summer, and you talked about Jared and just him being comfortable in his own skin again and really adjusting to the shock of the trade. So you expected him to be better this year, but certainly nobody on the outside expected what we got out of Jared Goff. Again, how would you describe the story of Jared Goff and his journey to where he is now with you guys?
I give him so much credit. You know, we talk about the resiliency factor, and, you know, that's what he's about. And obviously, I was with Jared from the time that he was drafted, you know, back in LA. So I've kind of know the story. But, you know, a lot of it was, I think a lot of spun was, I've been so supportive of Jared just because I was part of drafting him. And that's not really the case. Like, I've been a part of drafting a lot of players, but I was so supportive of Jared because, you know, 4 out of 5 years of him starting in LA, you know, he was a postseason quarterback. You know, 16 he was the #1 overall pick, and, you know, played a little bit, but 17 as a starter, went to the playoffs. 18 as a starter, you know, went to a Super Bowl. You know, 19 we missed it. 20 as a starter, went to the playoffs. So we made the trade, and having him part of it, and with the draft capital to be assumed, I thought he was good. Look, 21 season, it was a tough one, and I credit him because he was resilient. He was put in a tough situation. You know, we didn't have a lot of weapons around him. We got bit with a lot of injuries. We had change at OC, so everything that he went through, and him staying resilient and winning some big games towards the end, you know, we stayed the course. So we kind of approached last offseason of, let's continue to do our part, put more weapons around him. You know, new offensive coordinator in Ben Johnson, you know, blessed to have him back. So now we're looking at Jared now in terms of everything that we have back, and then the continuity, him going into year 2 with Ben Johnson. It's going to be exciting.
So, but what's the calculus, though? You're at the 6th pick. Jared, Chance the Reason still got some really good football, not his best football still ahead of him. Still a relatively young guy, but you may have an opportunity to take a quarterback. Is that conversation around that decision, is that more representative of the lack of respect that Jared Goff still has? Or is that a real thought process for you guys that, hey, we're up here. We don't plan on being up here anytime soon. This might be a spot to get a successor, even if we're not desperate for one.
I think it's a little bit of both in terms of, I think a little bit of, I'm not sure the respect factor that Jared has. I think a lot of people have some recency bias of, they kind of forgot everything that he's done. I'm not saying everybody does, but I kind of feel like the narrative is a little bit of everything from 16 to 20 was kind of back, and kind of how the trade went down. Everything kind of focused on, well, what was he in 2021? Oh, he wasn't very good in 2021. And so then they're like, oh, well, why was he good this past year? And no, he's always been talented. You know, he's actually always been good. So I think that's a big part of it. But, you know, we've had these conversations. Yes, we like Jared. He is our starter, you know, going into the season, but we need more in that room. You know, and so we got to approach that. We got to address that. You know, it's not a very comfortable position to be in, you know, going into the season. And it's like you got Jared, but who's behind him? And we were lucky enough to, you know, be able to get Nate Sudfeld as our backup last year. But, you know, we just need to add more to that room, whether it's this free agency and the draft.
A lot of people
All right, what's up, Detroit Lions fans? We're going to talk about what Brad Holmes pretty much said yesterday in the presser. I loved everything that he said because this is what we actually been talking about for the past several years, man. We've been talking about getting and developing a backup quarterback, whether you get him in free agency, whether you get him in the draft, whatever they decide to do. I'm going to roll with the punches. Maybe they decide to draft a quarterback, and also maybe they may decide to get one in free agency. It could go down that type of way. Definitely, I'm glad that Brad Holmes has pretty much learned from last season. Last year in the offseason, Brad Holmes, they were scrambling for a backup quarterback when we probably knew that Tim Boyle and David Blah shouldn't have been a part of the team anymore. Both of these guys didn't really look good as backup quarterbacks behind Jared Goff. And having a backup quarterback, man, you know what I'm saying? I know a lot of people say, man, we're talking about a backup quarterback here. You're talking about a backup quarterback. Yeah, it's everything nowadays in the NFL. I mean, look at what the San Francisco 49ers went through. They didn't know that Trey Lance was going to go down. They didn't know that Jimmy Garoppolo was going to go down. And then all of a sudden, the guy that they took, the very last pick of the draft, Brock Purdy, shows the whole entire NFL that you can take a quarterback at any given round. Brock Purdy slam the doors in everybody's face and let the league know that you can take a quarterback in any given round. And I loved what Brock Purdy brought to the table for the San Francisco 49ers. But we're talking about the Detroit Lions here, who have not taken a quarterback in a very, very long time. And I think that it's time for the Lions to be able to address the elephant in the room, and that's to be able to get a quarterback to back up Jared Goff. Sometimes, you know, when you get another quarterback, it lights a fire up under the other quarterback, not to just be complacent, but to go out there and play some good football. You know, you could become complacent when you're the starter every single year. You know that the job has been given to you. You can go out there and you could just be complacent as a quarterback. But you want your quarterback to eventually be able to wheel your team to the Super Bowl, man. Everybody wants to win the Super Bowl. And the same thing that goes with the Detroit Lions, man. We would love to win a Super Bowl in Detroit. But at the same time, you know the quarterback is going to be key on getting you there. So the biggest thing that I love what Brad said is that, you know, we're gonna go down that avenue this year, and we're going to look. You can't draft all defensive guys. It just don't make sense. You cannot go into the draft. He already told you last year they took 6 defensive guys. 5 out of the 6 guys they panned out. So that's pretty good, man. 5 out of 6 guys panning out and being able to get into the rotation, being able to get the experience, being able to play out on that football field, and getting the best out of those guys. Now this season, I know a lot of people have been screaming the Detroit Lions need to get all defense, all defense. You cannot go all defense. You have other holes on the team that you may have to fill. You may have to get another guard. You may have to grab another running back. Look at the quarterback situation. Nate Sudfeld is a free agent quarterback, and people are telling you not to draft a quarterback. You have a free agent quarterback in Nate Sudfeld who may not come back to the team. The Lions could opt to go in a different direction. And then when you look at the scenario of the running back situation, we know that the Lions are right now currently working out a deal to be able to bring Jamal Williams back. We know that Jamal Williams more than likely will be a Detroit Lion unless somebody comes and gives him a big payday and he decides to take his talent somewhere else. Jamal Williams is going to be the running back in Detroit. But then you got the uncertainty of DeAndre Swift as well. You know, he's on the last year of his deal. You know what I'm saying? And pretty much people are saying that it's probably time for the Detroit Lions to part ways with DeAndre Swift. So you got a lot of things, that's going on the table. And then now you have the situation going on with Jalen Carter, who pretty much I definitely would have drafted this kid. I think that Jalen Carter is a phenomenal talent, man. But his character issues is something that you can't deal with, man. You can't lie to the police officers, and you can't do what you did, man. That when 2 people lost their lives, man, you just can't do that. You can't walk away from something like that because you don't want to get in trouble. Now, would you draft Jalen Carter? Maybe some people would still go after Jalen Carter, but I definitely think he's going to take a little dip, and somebody will draft this kid. But at the same time, the character issues is there. and that's a concern. Especially it should be a concern for the Lions. There are other defensive tackles that you can take in this draft. Sometimes as fans, we could put the emphasis on one player and not really see the big picture. You have to, when you're in a draft, you have to look at the big picture. Like Brad Holmes said, character issues and like that type of stuff, it goes a long way. That shows, what type of team player you can be, because you're looking to bring somebody in the locker room that's going to bring that that grit and that grind that they're looking for. But at the same time, you're looking for somebody that's going to be able to handle themselves as a grown man on and off the field. So character flaws and character issues go a long way with certain players. Now, there's a lot of defensive tackles in this draft that that you can get in this draft. It's not the end of the world if you don't land Jalen Carter. You got guys like the Benton kid from Wisconsin. You have the guy that can play inside and not outside, Thule from USC, who was a guy that was dominant in the inside and the outside. You have my man Dexter from Florida. You have him as well. You got Big Mozzie Smith. I'm sure that this is going to move guys like Mozzie Smith up on the board. So you got players that you can go to and grab these other players. I know people talked about Brian Breezy a lot as well. Now, the thing about Brian Breezy is he doesn't really have the production like that. A lot of these guys, some of these guys don't have the production that you want to see at the defensive tackle spot. We know that Jalen Carter is a beast, but at the same time, we want to be able to get players in here that's going to buy into what we're trying to sell. And at the end of the day, that's what I think that Brad Holmes is basically trying to do. He's trying to get those type of individuals on the team. And definitely, man, I like that he's making his vision and making it clear to everybody that the Lions are going to, they're going to do their due diligence. And if they have to draft a quarterback, they're going to do it. We've been fighting. It's been like fans just fighting each other because some fans don't want to draft a quarterback because they think that you're going to get Caleb Williams. You're not getting Caleb Williams unless the team is losing football games. And you don't want these guys to be losing next year. You want these guys to go up. You want them to go forward. You don't want them to regress and go back just to go get a quarterback. So hopefully, man, the Lions will make the best decision that they can possibly make. Brad Holmes evaluates all of these quarterbacks, give all these guys a fair shake. It's a lot of quarterbacks that you guys have never heard of that's in this draft that can possibly be drafted and be developed. You got guys like Tanner McKee. You have guys like Will Levis. You got Hendon Hooker. You have guys that you never heard of, like the quarterback from Incarnate Word. What's his name? Lindsey Scott Jr. You have him. You have the other kid that played at Shepherd University, Tyson. Dang, I forgot Tyson's last name. Burgett. Tyson Burgett. You got guys like him. It's so many. Max Dugan. You have so many different quarterbacks where the Lions could choose from. Some of these guys didn't have the best. You got Jake Hayner too from Fresno State. So there's a lot of different quarterbacks that the Lions could decide to look at and bring these guys in and talk with these guys as well. So I'm glad from what I'm seeing from Brad Holmes, because this is the smart thing to do, to be able to bring you in a quarterback via free agency. If you got to bring in one of these free agent quarterbacks, or if you decide to do both of it, you decide to bring a free agent quarterback in, pay him a little salary, and then you decide to develop a guy. Either or, you know what I'm saying? I'm fine with it. And I knew that this was going to be the decision going forth, that eventually you're going to have to get somebody to play behind Jared Goff. You cannot continue to fail to ignore the elephant in the room. And the elephant in the room is these guys need to get a backup quarterback to develop. So whether it's Hendon Hooker, whether it's Levis, whoever it is, I know if it's Anthony Richardson, it doesn't matter who it is at this point. You have to have somebody that you can develop. I know Anthony Richardson doesn't have the best completion percentage, but those things can be worked out. Those are the type of kinks that can be worked out as he sits behind a Jared Goff. All right, guys, make sure you subscribe to the Keeping It Raw podcast. I'm your host, TA, and I'll be back to you soon with another video. I'm out of here. Till next time, peace.